Good afternoon, everyone. Bernardo Perez, Chair of the Board of Trustees for the Ventura County Community College District, calling a special meeting to order. A unique experience for all of us. We're conducting this meeting technologically. In the room is Chancellor Gillespie, Trustees Kennedy, Torres, Chancellor and McKay, and Vice Chancellor of Business Services, David Elfatal, and supporting all of us is Patty Blair and Laura Brower. Moving to item 1.02, which is public comments on the closed session agenda items. We had put out with the agenda notice to submit your public comments by email, and thank you all of you that did. A quick summary of those received public comments. We received about 64 emailed public comments. 60 of them were consistent in their support of their request for the board to suspend negotiations and delaying the move to fact-finding. 2 of the public comments voiced support of the district proposal, which would result in a transition of healthcare coverage and the raise. 2 public comments dealt with the SEIU reaching tentative agreement on a contract. And then outside of the email public comments, we did receive 1 letter, which also was in support of delaying the negotiations. And all of these emailed comments and this letter will be posted on the website subsequent to this meeting. That takes us then to item 1.03, which is a COVID-19 update. Chair? Yes, sir.
I have one point of clarification. Those numerous public comments to suspend or delay negotiations, they all had a similar reason, and that reason was a global pandemic. So it wasn't just to suspend and delay negotiations, it was a result of a global pandemic and heightened sense of issues.
Yes, and just piggybacking on that, they were some very heartfelt and comments. And also for the record, the Board of Trustees showed up early to read those comments, and as I said, they will be part of the record and available to everybody on the website. Thank you, Trustee Chancellor. Chancellor then, who would be providing various individuals, I understand, will be providing an update.
Yes, thank you, Chair Perez. We're going to spend a little bit of time just providing an overview of actions that the district is taking as we work to support students and employees through this pandemic and what's occurring with the COVID-19 virus. Again, we continue to really make adjustments, learn new things every day. We reacted very quickly last week to move and have large numbers of our employees working remotely. You have in your packet a list of VCCCD essential employees. So we had each of the vice chancellors, each of the college presidents created this list that they turned in on Friday. And we've now talked about this list during our now daily cabinet meetings by phone. And this list will be further refined as we really determine who all we need to have on campus to be providing the essential functions to keep operations going. You'll notice across all 3 colleges, we have the M&O staff listed as essential. This is an important time where our M&O workers can be deep cleaning all of our different rooms and buildings, and it allows for the daily cleaning that helps keep employees who are on site safe and healthy every day. It's also the time where we can do some critical building maintenance items as well as continuing to maintain the grounds. You'll notice police across all services, important to maintain security, and a number of folks related to the registrar's office, financial aid, and other critical services there. So we'll provide this updated list. David has been spending time each of the last few days working with the vice presidents of business services to make sure that we have everything open that's needed to be receiving shipments and all of those other items. Here in the district office, we have payroll, benefits, and all of those services that, again, are important to keep functioning. We're doing all that we can to, minimize the number of employees on site and support both employees and students in working remotely, knowing that we do need to have, core groups of services, because everything that we're doing is central to us continuing to support our students in completing and helping our employees do that important work there. You also have in your packet another sheet, and the top of it states the information below represents the current status of relevant issues pertaining to the COVID-19 crisis. It's a multi-page sheet. The first bold heading is FTES projections. So I'm not going to go through this in detail because some of these items will be referred to when we have each of the updates from the cabinet members that will be occurring. And then if you do have any questions at the end, I'd be glad to answer them. But basically, it kind of gives the status of some key points and some relevant data with regards to the district on areas where we're getting adjustments happening through guidance from the federal level and the state level with regards to these different components there. So the plan is to have each of our cabinet members give a 2 to 3 minute overview of some topics that I shared in an earlier email to the trustees. So the first update we have is from Patty Blair, and she'll talk about communications.
Good evening, trustees and Chancellor. We continue to receive regular county, state, and federal updates to keep students, employees, and the community and media informed through our VCCCD alerts website, social media, email, and the district newsroom. Many thanks to all of our dedicated faculty, classified professionals, and administrators for making this happen for all of our students. Thank you.
Thanks, Patty. And I know it's a lot of coordinated work with all your staff as well as working with the colleges, and really appreciate all the timely posting of materials, getting out the emails. We've had, again, multiple things to be communicating and appreciate the long hours over the last 2.5 weeks or more, I think. So thank you. The next update is from President Sanchez, Oxnard College, talking a little bit about what's going on with some of the specialized training programs across the district.
What is Dr. Sanchez's wife's name? I think he logged in with his Zoom account.
Teresa?
Oh. I'm wondering if it's a phone number. I don't see him on here. Could it be a phone number?
We could text Louise.
He was the one who was muted out of our whole last meeting. I wonder if he's got a.
Well, we can go ahead and move to faculty support with Kim Hoffman's from Ventura, and then we can move back to Louise.
Yeah, I have it now, so.
Oh, okay.
Unless you want to hear from him first.
Let's go with Louise. Thank you.
Okay, Luis, you're on.
Thank you, Dan. And thank you, Chancellor and board members. So the programs at Oxnard College, of course, that were not possible to be shifted to an online environment were fire technology, EMT, and dental hygiene. And so Dr. Sanford has proposed that we resume once we received the guidance from the governor and the state chancellor, that we resume face-to-face activities because the licensure of those programs requires the hands-on application. So resume face-to-face activities on April the 13th and remain in what we can keep online until that time. Those requests have been forwarded, I know, by Dr. Gillespie to the County Department of Public Health. I believe we're still waiting word from them to be able to continue with those programs as proposed.
Yes, thanks, President Sanchez. And that's a requirement that the State Chancellor's Office has asked us to get approval from our local County Department of Health so that they're comfortable with all the steps we're taking to protect faculty and students as we continue some of this needed face-to-face instruction for skills development, clinicals, internships, and all of those things. At Ventura, they have several programs as well that are in this category, along with Moorpark College. And they're all some of the health programs as well as the police academy, the fire academy, which are considered essential programs by the state. We really want to have our completers graduate and move into these career areas.
Sure.
Trustee McKay.
Today, one of the lobbying efforts statewide is specifically to nursing, is that perhaps they can do 50% rather than 25% of their practicum in the classroom. That's one of the hopes that they'll push through. They are really lobbying at the state level and hoping that county public health will let these essential programs go on, because the EMT nurses are, assumed to be so desperately needed that they're really hoping to find the flexibility, particularly with nursing, which I know they did case-by-case flexibility a year ago, and we're hoping for just some wider flexibility going forward.
Trustee Chancellor.
So just to clarify, the decision to allow, for example, a paramedic program at Ventura College to reopen for face-to-face instruction lies with the county of Ventura.
County of the Department of Public Health. They have to agree that, yes, you can move forward based on your plans.
And have we formally done what we need to do on the college's side to formally request that?
Yeah, we have. From all colleges, I received the plans earlier in the week. They're with Mr. Vargas and Dr. Levine, and he told me they'd get back to me by Friday if they can.
Okay. Can I request that those, the requests coming from the colleges to the county that you share with the Board of Trustees, just because I've been getting a lot of responses, so it'd be nice to be in tune with what exactly the colleges are requesting from county health. I understand they're already fulfilled and completed, but just to kind of keep us in the loop, that would be helpful.
Yeah, my only concern is that I'm very comfortable doing it once it's finalized by the Department of Public Health, because the one thing I don't want to do is to have people think it's all set or this is how it's going to be done, and then county health says in order to implement it, here's what we need you to do.
Sure, no, I understand, but it would just be helpful to see what the colleges are requesting.
Yeah, that's fine.
Thank you. So maybe just send that, would be appreciated.
Yeah, and Chancellor, following up on that, this set of COVID-19 information, has this, do the presidents that are on the call have this in front of them? Or, okay, so my question to each of the presidents would be, as this new information is coming to us from the state and specifically from the state chancellor's office, how is it being disseminated to the campus? I'm sure you have regular meetings.
Yeah, so let me go ahead and just start with that, and then the presidents can talk. So we have at 8:30, we have Chancellor's Cabinet calls. So it's all of the presidents, all of the vice chancellors, Patty, Laura, Dan Watkins is there. And we're looking at what comes through the previous day, and those are our items that we're talking about, and a lot of these have been the items on the list. That'll then follow down in the meetings that occur with registrars of financial aid, with VPs of business, and so on. And ultimately, the decisions do get communicated out to all staff that need to know, and the students as well. Some of that's communications happening at the district level. Some of it is coming out direct from the colleges. So
Thank you.
does that cover it okay?
Yes,
Yeah.
and the key point there is you're having daily such meetings.
Correct.
Trustee Torres?
I just wanted to express an interest as a trustee to be informed. When I read the communication that came from Chancellor Oakley during the beginning of this situation, he always said for the Chancellor and the Board of Trustees to make decisions that they felt was suited within their colleges. And when I read that, I have felt as I'm being notified after the fact. So there's communication that's happening with the Chancellor and the Presidents, which I understand needs to happen immediate, but somehow decisions are being made and I'm not aware of. And so by reading that communication from Chancellor Oakley, it made me feel what I have felt is being part of the process, particularly because I can be part of the process. So I can understand when sometimes different trustees are not able to make it, but I think with this and the circumstances that we're in, definitely being much informed within the process, because I have really felt as this is what we're doing, this is the direction we're moving, and then it's more of, okay, but there wasn't that communication or that dialogue from getting input from the board as well. So meetings, of course, with the cabinet needs to take place, and then with the board of trustees, and then we're all on the same page, and then something gets delivered, gets presented. And so just like Trustee Chancellor was mentioning right now, what are the colleges doing? It's something that we should know, and it's not, we understand that it's going to be introduced to not behavioral health, but to public health. And Mr. Vargas and Dr. Levine are going to take a look at it, but at least we should be informed as trustees what's going to be presented to them to consider and not know after the fact. And so that's just one of the things that I wanted to just bring forward to the board. And sometimes it's just that communication, just be clear, right? So I'm not saying this is something that's being done intentionally, but as we move forward with every business of the college, we can maybe clarify what are some things that as a board, we definitely want to be part of the process and not be notified as this is what we did. And I say that with that communication that was sent by Chancellor Oakley when he specified how we move forward, and this was with Chancellor and Board of Trustees together deciding what they felt was best.
Thank you. Chancellor, if you want Luis to continue, or you have?
Yeah, I think, so Luis, thank you for that update. Then we can move to President Hoffman's talking about faculty support, which has really had to become different and more intense as a result of moving to virtual. And I know all the colleges and IT are doing great efforts to make that happen and supporting faculty and students. So Kim?
Okay, well, thank you. Can you hear me okay? Can you hear me, Greg?
Yes, we can hear you, Kim.
Oh, good. So I really appreciate our faculty have been incredible in their flexibility and accommodating our students. I met with our ASVC president today, and she told me how many of her faculty have just been extremely gracious in accommodating students and helping them through this very challenging and difficult time. So I wanted to start with that. Our efforts have really been to help support faculty and to train them so that they can move to virtual instruction and services to support our students. Our campuses have instructional designers, and we also have qualified, certified faculty who are peer mentors that have been working tirelessly with our faculty to make sure that the transition is smooth so we can continue and have the continuity of education. At the last board meeting, Paula Munoz had an open public comments had made the comment and requested to push back registration to April 30th. And we looked at whether that was feasible and how that would work. And we have made that move, as you know, as a district. And this was really helpful, especially for our student services faculty, in order for them to get up to speed on the tools that they need to offer counseling and other really necessary services to make sure that students can register for their classes. All of the campuses have created websites with helpful information related to Canvas and Zoom tools. They have training schedules for online and drop-in support. We have peer one-to-one support where faculty are helping faculty. We have video guides, and then we have a 24/7 help desk for both faculty and students. Also, we have a tool that for students where faculty can use this to help complement their instruction. It's called Starfish. If students are struggling or if they have disengaged as a result of moving to online courses, they can flag a student in their class and let someone at the college know what's going on, and we're reaching out to those students to help them with whatever the situation is or refer them to resources that they may need. And so that's been very helpful. Let's see what else. We're providing frequent updates. I think this was addressed earlier. I send out a nightly email trying to update everybody where we are on campus and what's going on. We've been having weekly, what I'm calling emergency operations command center meetings, as well as combining with our admin council, just to keep everybody in the loop and up to date on what's happening on campus. The Chancellor's office has provided numerous resources and support, and we attach that or send it out in addition with our emails on a daily basis. So all that's been very helpful. I do have one other thing to report that we found out about this afternoon at Ventura College. We now have our first positive case. A student was tested positive. We've spoken with her and retraced her steps and her access on campus. She was last at Ventura College on March 10th. So it's been 16 days, which is past the recommended quarantine period. So that's the good news. She was also only taking one class. Public health is in contact with her and following her case. And the student reported that she's actually feeling better and while she's being quarantined at home.
Okay, thanks, Kim. And again, those similar efforts are happening across at all three colleges there. Dr. Sokanu from Moorpark College, he'll be giving an update just on COVID-19 student communication and response. And this is really just to kind of let you know the feedback that's been received when we did have to communicate to students in classes in the college community about COVID-19 case with the Moorpark College student.
Thank you, Dr. Gillespie. Good evening, trustees. Moorpark College found out on March 21st that a student of ours had tested positive for COVID-19 and had been hospitalized in LA County. Once the student contacted the institution, we then had the registrar pull the registration for the student to identify which courses the student was enrolled in. And then we contacted the faculty members involved, had a phone conversation with each of the faculty members, as well as email conversation with them that same afternoon. We then went to trace the student's track through the institution. We knew that the student had last been on campus on March 9th and had reported at that time of not being ill. And so we then attempted to, excuse me, contact those students who were in the same class with the student who tested positive. An email went out to each of those students. We then made sure that we went back and communicated with instructors in each of those cases just to check on them. Once the email went out to the students in those courses, we then went ahead and crafted a message with the help of Jim Shoki, who was our former director of marketing and outreach, who is now at Oxnard College, with Patty and Dr. Gillespie. When I had crafted a message that went to the college community, the faculty and the staff at that time. We also, at that point in time, then developed a message that went out to students so that students are aware of the particular situation. We received then subsequently some concerns from students that wanted to know if they were exposed, the risk levels. They wanted to know which course the student was enrolled in. We couldn't share that information, of course. But they also wanted to know what Moorpark College had done to track the students' path through the college and how accurate that was. The lessons that we've learned from this is the importance of having a fast and timely response, accurate response, being respectful in the way in which we engage all individuals, and being empathetic in the communication. Share that information as quickly as possible. We targeted the message in a phased approach. So initially, the goal of the messaging was to establish facts so that folks got the facts. Then the next phase was to assure folks of their safety and direct them to the healthcare provider if they had questions. And then further on, to educate students and the community at large about the nature of the COVID-19 virus so that they could make informed decisions. We also learned from how other colleges approached the COVID-19 situation by looking at the communications that they had with their students and then formulated ours based on that. Really, the most important piece of this is making sure that we have frequent communication with the various stakeholder groups, frequent communication with students so that the students could ask us questions on the VCCCD MC alerts page. They could email directly to me and I could respond to them. They could also ask questions of the college through our webpage. All of these, I think, made it so that at this point, we have folks there has not been any kind of chaos that has come out of this. If nothing else, the college is actually, community has banded around and supported the work that we've done. And I am very grateful that the most concerns that we hear are for the student. Folks want to know how the student is doing and wanting to make sure that they recover fully.
Thank you. Thank you.
Trustee McKay?
I apologize if it sounds like a broken record, but we spent a lot of time getting the webinar ready for today. And Patty's going to print out the PowerPoint that was used. There's a lot of detail about this notification that will be coming your way, Greg.
Trustee McKay, explain what webinar you're talking about.
Today, the Community College League in California, we did a trustee webinar, and they will be happening weekly on Thursdays at noon. And today we kind of went over the basics, but one was because so few community college students have been identified is what is the procedure, what's, privacy versus, the need to know. They're really hoping that at the state level, they'll be able to keep an idea of how many there were. At the time of people on the webinar, the Moorpark student was the only one that anyone could even speak to at the time. So they, the lawyers that were part of the preparation for this have done some homework on privacy versus, so that when it's all printed out, there's links, there's a lot of work that's been put into this, and they're going to take a deeper dive into it next Wednesday. So I would just highly recommend if you have the time on Wednesdays to listen to this. Thursday, sorry. They're a lot, like I said, a lot of work goes into them, and today was a broad brush, and they're just going to dive a little bit deeper into each of these areas as we learn. And each week of best practices, trustees' best practices will be put out because we're learning as we're doing. But this was one of them from today.
Thank you, and word of caution to my colleagues. I tried to log on to that meeting today also, and thought I was having problems or just inept. but apparently the meetings may not start on time, so just be patient.
We were
Trust-
3 minutes late and I.
Take that
saw-
recommendation, put some waiting music or something, so.
We will do that. It was our first.
Yeah, right, no,
I
it's
saw
good.
him log on and I thought he was logged on and he gave up because we were 3 minutes late. It started. So.
Well, it's not that I gave up, I always looked at that, it's me that's having the problem, so. All right, thank you, Chancellor.
Thank you. So next we'll have an update from Dan Watkins, our Associate Vice Chancellor of IT, on IT support security for employees. Dan?
Sure, thank you, Dr. Gillespie. And when the trustees are talking, if you could talk into the mic clearly, it's hard for some people online to hear. With that, I'll give a board update on information technology that we've been doing at the district and at the colleges. First, I want the board to know and those on the meeting to know that I feel incredibly honored and fortunate to work with such an exceptional IT team at the district and at the colleges. I participate on a lot of statewide technology committees and conferences, and our staff at both the district and the college is well known throughout the state for their expertise, and other colleges turn to our staff for support, ideas, and best practices. So I take a lot of pride in being a part of such a well-respected group. So for the district, our priorities have been really for the last 2 weeks have been doing everything we can to enable our employees, faculty, staff to work remotely, getting them the resources they need as quickly as possible. We expanded our VPN licensing and deployments for several staff that we could right away, but we were limited in that you had to have the software installed on laptops and a separate multi-factor authentication setup. So we quickly started spinning up and working with Amazon Web Services using their AppStream and Workspace products. They've given us credits for 2 months free, which is great. We have provisioned over 430 accounts to the secure portal for employees. This gives them access to all of our web-based applications with multi-factor authentication for security to Banner, Argos, OnBase, and some of the tools that we need to have secure access to. We're right now, and hopefully tomorrow, we'll be able to roll out application streaming, which will give our employees access to client-based applications. So if they need to be in Argos or Tableau or the room scheduling software, they'll have access to those. And then hopefully next week, middle to end of next week, we'll be able to deliver a streaming desktop experience, which will give users even greater access to accessing their Windows file shares, documents, and really kind of mirror that in-office experience. So those are some of the initiatives that we're working on that are coming. We at the colleges and the district have been deploying laptops to faculty, students, and staff. We've exhausted our current inventory. We're reviving ones that were ready for e-waste, and we're doing everything we can to get new ones. But so is everyone else. So there's sometimes delays in deliveries. We've created an online training and remote support page. And I actually think I can share that real quick to the people that are in the meeting. Let's see here. Give me just a second. There it is. Okay. So I don't know if you guys can see it, but everyone in the meeting will be able to see it. So this is a remote access page where we cover all the remote work topics. Email, documents, personal devices, collaboration, applications, VPN, ways to sign up. There's also video tutorials. And then we also have an information security section that we've also been updating. And one of the really important things is phishing awareness and actually phone calls, that there are a lot of COVID-19 scams happening right now. And it's important for everyone to be as up and aware of security as possible. So that's some of the stuff that's happening at the district. And then obviously we're providing technical support for online meetings, interviews, and faculty who want to use Zoom or meeting software in their classrooms. Then the colleges, Ventura College has provision is working on getting 500 Chromebooks to hand out to disadvantaged students who don't have technology. We're looking at all the colleges where students can maybe pull up in their cars and get access to Wi-Fi, some outdoor kind of hotspot things. And I'm also working on the state on some of those initiatives. We also, in our IT departments, are able to provide remote support. We worked with LogMeIn. They have a product called Go to Assist, or now it's called Rescue Assist, where we can remotely install software and support users. We've been able to do that. And then we're also, some of our colleges are starting to kind of help the faculty and staff move documents that they need to share and collaborate on to SharePoint, which is an online tool that they're able to do some of that stuff, at least until we can get them some of that desktop experience where they'll be able to share files. And then lastly, I just want to say that we've gotten a really great, and I think Kim covered this, our instructional designers are going above and beyond in helping faculty get their lessons, get their courses converted into online, and they're all, I mean, I think we have a top-notch instructional designer crew that are just phenomenal and have been great to work with. So that's my update.
Thanks, Dan. Appreciate that. Next, we'll move to an update on business operations, safety facilities from Vice Chancellor Alcatel. Okay.
So I just will dovetail on to what Dan was talking about the instructional designers and everybody that has been supporting this move to get remote. And I would also say that there are many supervisors, managers, and others in addition to the instructional designers that are supporting the workers who have not been accustomed to working from home. They're getting set up, and there's issues that have to be supported. And so an awful lot of payroll supervisor and director of fiscal and director of general services and all sorts of folks across the campuses are going through that process also, just supporting people so that they can work as effectively and efficiently from home as possible. Regarding the list of essential employees, the Chancellor mentioned earlier that we did a good job of getting as many people staying at home and or working from home in the first week. And even though employees are listed as essential, and they are essential, and that list will change slightly, perhaps, that doesn't mean that essential, for instance, payroll employees are all essential because we need to provide paychecks for our employees. We have several payroll employees working from home. All districts are not able to do that. They're not capable of doing that, but we are. And same thing for our accounts payable and other folks in this particular building. They're essential workers, but many of them are working home, all of the time or much of the time. On occasion, they do have to come in, and we're careful, as everybody is across the district, of making sure that there's staggered shifts, people are maintaining social distance protocols, etc. So there's a lot of that work going on. I will also mention that operationally, a question was asked earlier of how is information getting communicated. I will say, I'll speak for myself, I probably am on 5 to 6 hours a day of phone calls, more than I have been accustomed to. One of them is the Chancellor's cabinet phone call. Then I have a meeting with my team for an hour. If it takes an hour, then I have a meeting with the Vice President of Business. I want a couple statewide phone calls. And so it's just to get information and to share information so that we're all doing the best that we can, best practice-wise and so on, and making sure that we're complying with issues and so on, and also doing the right thing for our employees. I will say, operationally, another issue that takes a lot of time, or has taken quite a bit of time. So we have an MOU to pay faculty instructors and mentors to help teach faculty remotely, and then also pay to receive money for taking training, professional development activities. And what happens is the MOU is taken care of at a high level. There's details in the MOU and so on, but there's operational issues that have to occur after that. And so this has taken many hours from payroll staff, myself, our operations team, the vice presidents of instruction at the campuses, the deans. There's all sorts of conversations that go on to make sure that payroll can get properly informed, timely informed, so that we can pay in a timely way. So those are just some of the detailed issues that are happening and taking a lot of time from a lot of people. I would like to mention safety and security. So our officers are visible on campus. There certainly is, it's all quiet, so to speak, as I'm sure you've heard on the news from the municipal police officers. It's crime is way down and so on, but we're still on campus. We're conducting patrols. We're being visible on campus. And also, like many municipal forces, our officers are responding to calls for service. They are taking enforcement action only for crimes that are in progress and if the public safety is in danger. So we're focusing our efforts on high-level issues and not getting bogged down into issues that we don't need to be. The chief happens to participate and always has in conference calls once and twice a week, depending on the group. The Ventura County Office of Emergency Services calls twice a week. Ventura County Police Chiefs calls weekly. The County Law Enforcement Coronavirus Task Force 1 to 2 times per week. So, and then he shares, of course, information at Chancellor's Cabinet with appropriate groups and actually shares with everybody. And then we take that information and do things accordingly. Another thing, by the way, we still need to be focused on running the operations. And so, for instance, a few days ago, I guess Tuesday of this week, we interviewed some legal services firms as part of the process to bring something forward to the board in terms of lawyers and law firms, and we'll do another second round of those interviews next week so that we can, continue moving forward so that we can present something to the board prior to June 30th so that we can know which direction we're heading in for next year. Also, just in terms of, I'd like to take a little bit of time to talk about some budget issues related to COVID from a state level and also FEMA. So we have put in place accounting codes so that we can track expenses, whether they're expenses that we're paying people that are at home, whether it's for disinfectants, whether it's for technology, whether it's for overtime, whether it's the MOU for training that I described earlier about virtual training. We're tracking all of those dollars in case we're able to receive any assistance from FEMA, when this is over with. And there is a FEMA, there's an application that FEMA put out. I think the deadline was April 7th, but I was in a call yesterday with the state chancellor's office and CBOs across the system and the Department of Finance and so on. And that deadline may be changed, and the state chancellor's office is looking at the possibility of applying en masse as a system for assistance. So we're waiting for information coming out of that. Again, the deadline for each individual district to apply or to at least get our application in may be pushed out. And in the end, we may decide through the state chancellor's office to do it, all together. So those are some of the issues that are going on. In terms of budget, if I just may make a few comments, as you can imagine, things have changed for the near future. And what happens in this year's budget, 1920? Dr. Buckley will mention in a minute about the protections for this year. There's a good chance there will be protections for this year and that our budget won't change for this year, but I know many of you who have been in this line of work, K-12 in particular, we have received mid-year cuts May 30th of the year or June 10th of the year. I also will say that each college district has been asked to provide the Department of Finance. The question being asked is, can you afford to not get revenue, not get your allocation for 1 month? Now, I just reported to the board recently that the state made a change to save the state budget, and they didn't give us our money, K-12 and colleges, in June. They pushed it out to July so that they can say they had a balanced budget. We just resolved that. We just now resolved that, but they're already considering doing it for next year. So there's a lot. So there's a lot of moving parts. We'll see what's going to happen. And I just would say we're preparing for a vastly different May revise. My educated guess at this point is that it'll be a flat budget. We'll just make assumptions that it'll be flat, and we'll bring a tentative budget forward in June. but there will maybe have the legislature will have a special meeting once tax information comes in, because we don't have that yet. So we'll see how that goes, and we'll keep you informed as information comes forward.
Thank you. Trustee Chancellor? And then Trustee McKay.
Thank you. Dr. Alcatel, you mentioned the MOU, and are we as a district operating under that MOU now?
The MOU for
Training.
yes, we are.
Okay, so I'm unclear how we're doing that when that MOU has not been approved by the board.
Yeah, just at the last board meeting, we reviewed it. We talked about I have the authority to implement that, and we bring it.
No, that's not what was discussed. What was the comments were, we're going to pull this item, we're going to wait for the signatures and the agreement, and then it'll come back to this board. So I'm unclear because I thought it would be on today's agenda. I understand the urgency of completing this MOU, and our students need the agreement of the MOU, and our faculty need it. But I'm very uncomfortable with an MOU in operation that we have not seen and we have not approved.
Trustee McKay.
The webinar is already out, so you don't have to, if you don't have time at noon, the recording is already out with links to the PowerPoint. They go into what Dr. Alcatel spoke to at length, kind of the maybe jump in the month, the different budget possibilities, and some are far more dire than what you brought up. And maybe they won't go there, but they were talking about no COLA, only COLA, they're going to fight just to hold us harmless. That's going to be the, kind of what they're going to be lobbying for. So I would encourage everyone got the email who's a trustee. 93 people logged on today, but it's out there for everyone. It's an hour and 10 minutes long, and the folks that spoke, will give a lot of detail on what you're hearing here tonight. And one of the things is an extraordinary, the authority that chancellors have during times of emergency. And I think that we're going to really hurt ourselves if we tie our chancellor's hands to not be able to, and they spent some time on this today, and I would encourage all of you to listen to it, that, in order for chancellors up and down the state to do their job, or president superintendents, they have to have the authority in a state of emergency to do the things that they don't, that we've delegated the authority to, and a little bit more. So I just put that out there.
Trustee Kennedy.
That's exactly what I was going to say. I've been through 5 recessions, and operations need to, and I worked with FEMA after the earthquake, and each and every time that was the situation that the CEO had to make decisions.
Sure.
Trustee Torres.
And I understand those comments. I think my concern is we're in a board meeting, and it's public and it's recorded, so we can always go back to see what was stated. In that meeting, we stated it was going to come back to us, and we didn't have this dialogue that we're having now. Had this dialogue been presented at that last board meeting, then moving forward with the MOU would have been fine because we discussed it, but it was very clearly stated that the MOU should have been pulled out because there was going to be some revision, and then it would come back to us. Now, could this also be communicated through an email to let us know, due to the state of the situation, this is we're moving forward? And it just goes back to my concern again as a trustee, not being part of the process, not being informed until after the fact of things. And I think there's something to be said in terms of coming together, communicating, or this is what's occurring, because it does happen in other districts. And when I start listening to what's occurring at the state level, when I'm reading the information from the state chancellor of how it should be conducted, that's the way it should be. And so maybe it's structures that we need to set in place, and it's good that we have this dialogue so as we're moving in the future, because more things are going to be arising. Of course, there's things that need to be, you need to react with an administration, but there's also letting your board know this is a direction that we're moving, because it's a collective team of the board being informed and not knowing after the fact. And that's just something to be considered as we're moving forward. And I understand like the clear expectations. That's like, okay, clear expectations, it's been discussed. I'm going to keep my board in the loop of what direction we're moving. If for some reason in the board meeting we said an MOU was going to come back for approval, but given the fact of how things are moving, that's not going to be feasible. So if it's through an email and or whatever that platform is going to be, the board is informed that we're moving forward in the process and with the work that needs to get done.
So I apologize if there was any confusion around that, because we worked really hard to get the MOU done following the discussion we had at that board meeting. It was signed by myself and AFT President Doug Teal on Friday. So we're implementing now to get faculty paid. We'll bring it to the board for review and approval in April. At this point, with all the communications that have been going on, I can't remember off the top of my head if I emailed to the board to give you the good news that the MOU had been agreed to or not. If I didn't, I'll apologize for that as well. You know, with the resolution that the board passed, recognizing the COVID-19 emergency, and really it does grant me as the chancellor with the flexibility to implement local authority as needed to deal with the emergency and respond to things in a timely manner at the operational level. And that's what I'm really working with our team to do. And we're getting updates in all these areas, and you can tell a lot is happening, and a lot has to happen relatively quickly. But even then, we don't rush to make rash decisions. We're engaged with experts in these areas, whether it's faculty, whether it's Department of Health, whether it's our business people. So we're making the best decisions possible. And I do want the board to feel informed, know what's going on, and have appropriate input around things, as well as approving what needs to be approved, and be glad to, you know, make adjustments if the board has concerns or issues with how I'm handling this. And maybe we can talk about that during the Chancellor email.
Trustee Chancellor. Thank you. I understand that you have to do your job in an emergency. There's, of course, decisions to be made, but echoing Trustee Torres, you know, some of these decisions, I mean, it's, I guess the word I'll use is it's surprising to me when I hear in the news that, for example, graduation's been canceled. Summer school is going to be completely online. But so these decisions have been made, but they were never discussed with us as trustees. And these, to me, you know, both these events, one being in summer and one being in May, you know, I know decisions need to be made, but, you know, sharing some information, sort of the reasoning behind it with trustees, I think is very relevant and helpful. So I'll just leave it at that, but I appreciate it.
Yeah, and for myself, your comments of all of you are duly considered and responded to. And, you know, as was reported earlier, meetings are being held daily in order to be able to respond to ever-changing situations. And as chair, I'm a little closer to seeing all that's going on. I mean, just the preparation for this meeting, you have no idea the hours that have been put into it. And just like I mentioned, the issue trying to sign on to the webinar, I mean, just ironing out the issues for this meeting to occur. So, but those are very valid concerns, questions, and I just want to say that, you know, Trustee Torres made a good point. You know, there is the record of the meeting, so when this matter does come before us, I'm sure the Chancellor will review that and capture the essence of the conversation we had. Because as I was listening to your comments, I was thinking immediately, well, wait a minute, we also passed a resolution authorizing the Chancellor to make necessary decisions. And the key is, and you know, we'll all try to get better about it, is keeping everybody in the loop as is merited. But I would just ask you for patience and your indulgence and your understanding as everybody is doing the absolute best they can under very trying circumstances. And that's part of the message that was conveyed in, you know, the email public comments we got. You know, This is affecting everybody, and everybody is trying to do the best they can in support of each other. That's the key, in support of each other. Thank you. Go ahead, Trustee Chancellor.
Just based off the information, I had a couple of quick questions. One is, are our food pantries still open?
I'll let the colleges answer that. I know they were doing some drive-up pickups as of last week. I don't know if that's continuing this week.
Okay. And then, is there an opportunity? I know some other districts have been really successful with community and even students during this time by having an email to where community members, students, whoever can email in for volunteering. So is that something that we have discussed at all? That they can
Not
send?
that I'm aware
Not that I'm aware of.
of.
Okay. All right, sandwich me.
All right, Chancellor.
Yep, so we just have two other updates. Next will be Vice Chancellor Larry Buckley on FTES protections, just to give the board an update there. Thanks.
I believe it's number 1 in your packet that Dr. Gillespie gave you, the FTS projections or protections issue. And spinning back to what Dave said a few moments ago, there is concern about how this disruption is going to relate to anticipated decline in tax and fee revenues for the state and how that will translate for community college budgets. We received from the State Chancellor's Office a directive on the 20th of March, which pledged that the state would protect community college district funding allocation, declaring the pandemic an emergency, which allowed them the authority to offer that protection. So our 2019-2020 academic year allocation, our apportionment, is protected under that directive. Now, of course, that could change if things are drastic and the legislature acted, but at this point, we have the pledge that that won't have an adverse effect on us. Just to recount, we have about 25,600 FTES operationally across the district, with an apportionment of about $163,143,000. So we, at this moment, are operating under the assumption that those monies will be protected.
Okay, thanks, Larry. And to wrap things up, we have Jim Dembowski, Vice Chancellor of HR. He was going to talk a little bit about the AFT MOU. I think we've talked about that already, but Jim, if you have anything additional to that, and then an update on how searches are continuing for those that are.
Good evening, Mr. Chair, members of the board, and Chancellor. It's Jim Dembowski from District HR. Yes, from the district-wide perspective, it took a while and more than a few back and forths, but the district and AFT were able to hammer out an MOU regarding a program whereby faculty could receive what was thought to be a sufficient level of training, up to a maximum of 5 hours, on the Canvas with a Canvas Zoom platform, so they could quickly convert their classes to an online method of teaching. People jumped into it, and it has been, from what I understand, a resounding success. As I said, faculty could reach or receive up to 5 hours of training, and if a member of faculty was assigned and acting as a trainer or mentor, there was no cap on the hours spent in that approved capacity. People did pitch in, and I understand the concern about things going on without people being properly apprised from their perspective. I must say that, just for general information, I mentioned this to others in the labor relations industry as what we were doing, and I was met with kind of the questioning of, why are you guys negotiating? With the emergency authorization, you should be able to just go ahead and do this. And my response was, this outfit that I'm working for now would much prefer to have a more collegial relationship and get consensus in going forward. And that's frankly what Chancellor and AFT President achieved. with respect to HR operations and the COVID-19 response to working remotely has somewhat slowed us down. But we're trying to convert as much as is possible of the paperwork involved in our processes into an e-format, and HR is a paperwork heavy process. So we're trying to make as much effort as we can to get it all into e-format. Everybody is essentially at home working through the computers and doing a pretty darn good job. We're still doing the recruitments, exams, and certification processes. And we are still engaged in searches for a permanent vice chancellor to replace myself and the director of HR services and the personnel commission. I was told that the draft brochures for the vice chancellor should be sent us this week for review, and the brochure for the director position should be here within the next 2 weeks.
Thanks, Jim. So that wraps up the updates from your cabinet members, and if trustees have any other questions, we'd like to answer them. Otherwise, that wraps it up.
Trustee Kennedy.
I appreciate the extensiveness of this report. I just have to repeat how difficult it is when there's a crisis. And I believe that our chair spoke eloquently about the exact situation we're in and how we're handling it. And I think staff are handling this really well.
Thank you. With that, then, the board will move to closed session. So this essentially ends the public portion of the meeting. Under items 2.01, conference with labor negotiators at AFT and SEIU, and 2.02, public employee performance annual evaluation regarding the chancellor. Thank you, and everyone be safe, stay healthy at home. Be well. Thank you.